Now the watch that I'm about to show you costs $495 USD, and we often want to reinsure value for money in our timepieces. There are more affordable tritium watches in the market, but let's take a look at why I think that the best value for money in tritium technology divers is in ProTek, PROTEK, the 1004 O series. There will be a link in the description below for the website for you guys to purchase the watch if you're interested by the end of the review, and a 20% discount code can be applied by typing my name, Sky, at the point of purchase for any series of watch that you're interested in. And if you want to see an in-depth interview with the brand owner Barry Cohen, check out the video recommendation at the end of the review. Powering this tactical tool watch is a dependable Japanese Citizen Miyota 2S60 quartz 3-hander and date movement complication with a 10-year battery life. The caseback, 316L stainless steel, screw-in, and very embossed signature caseback with the logo on it. Very nicely done, very nicely finished, and very nicely prominent, giving off this 3D effect. Flipping her over, we're taking a look at the case, which is 42 millimeters carbon composite casing, which has 30% carbon fiber, 70% polycarbonate material. Its thickness is 13.95 millimeters with a lug width of 22 millimeters and only weighs in at 73.2 grams. For keyless work function, we have a 316L stainless steel screw-in crown with 5 O-rings that has a rubber fitting to increase grip with a steel top slightly shaped into a spin top style. The bezel, also carbon composite, and a 60-click unidirectional ratcheting dive timing bezel with 0 backplay, and I do mean 0 backplay. There's also a healthy amount of resistance for the left hand turning of the bezel that has a notch bump out which holds the value of 5 minutes, making this bezel very effective to watch in my experience. In between the bump outs, we find slightly recessed painted numbers for every passing 10 minutes. At the 12 position of the bezel, a circular tritium tube that appears to be slightly embedded into the bezel to ensure its security. And finally, a smaller recessed bezel tracking can be found hugging the crystal with triangular shapes for the 5-minute intervals and small bars for precise timing. Speaking of the crystal, we get sapphire with anti-reflective coating for glare-free viewing. And underneath that crystal, we find that the dial begins off with a sloped dual-colored chapter ring that sits on top of the dial, both in orange and in black, to match the theme of the watch, that holsters the tritium tubes, recessed and bordered in a white paint outlining them. The tritium gas tubes hold the position of each hour, but also contains the value of 3-minute intervals, which is also apparent when the second hand strikes over the tubes. Getting close up to the dial, we can see a nice texture throughout from the center to the outer rim of the dial. Now that's important to note this style, as it will require slightly raised numbers and text to ensure the clarity, and that's exactly what we get. Sliding inward from the chapter ring, we're met with big, bold, easy to read numbers representing the hours, and accompanying them we find the smaller brother army time positioning accurately to the hour, with the exclusion of the third hour, which is substituted for a date wheel complication, which is also nicely bordered with white paint for the aperture. Now, normally I would be calling for a date wheel color to match the dial, but in this case it makes more sense to have a white date wheel to match the hour numbers, but I'm not too sure if putting the 15th hour for the military time was necessary. Let me know in the comments. At the 12, we have a shield-shaped applied logo, P for ProTek, leaning into the play on words for the brand name. Pro for the professionals in emergency services, and Tech for the tritium gas tubes technology. Together, we have the brand name ProTek for the ones who protect us. ProTek in big bold letters found at the 6 o'clock with 300 meters to follow, and even still further down at the 5 o'clock between that and the 7, we have a T for tritium and Japan movement alluding to the watch's caliber. Hovering over the dial, we have evenly spaced squelette style hands fitted with tritium gas tubes on the hour, minute, and second hand. At the base of the hour and minute hand, we have cutout rectangular shapes. Now let's take a look at the strap, and I think it's very deceiving. When I first looked at it, I expected it to be very stiff because it is very thick, but it is genuine rubber and it is pliable by all means, and I'm expecting a long, dependable lifetime down the road from it. There's a chevron style look rolling down the lug of the strap and a very subtle but neat crease, emphasizing more on the keepers of the strap that I can't help but think of a Marine's uniform. An engraved logo has been spotted on the strap and on the buckle, and in speaking of the buckle, we have a stainless steel gun gray plating that's brushed and polished at the chamfered edging, with that engraving also being of subtle nature. This is also quite interesting. Steel tubes have been added and molded into the strap for the spring pins to pass through for added strength and durability at the lugs. And finally, on the underneath of the straps, we have a tire mark shaped pattern slightly recessed in its rectangular shape. Now, let's talk lume. All of the tritium tubes give off a neon green glow for the exception of the 12 o'clock position being neon orange, which is important for knowing the watch's orientation. The major differences to note between tritium lume and conventional light source powered lume is that tritium works best when your eyes are adjusted to the dark and will continue to perform evenly throughout the night regardless of its exposure to the light source prior, as it does not rely on a light source to power it. So, for all you lume fanatics out there, you might want to look into the watches found at ProTek. Now, I want to make a special note regarding the tritium tubes being of nuclear substance. It is to be understood that tritium gas tubes at this level is 100% safe to wear, even as a daily watch, and even in the most extreme event, if you were to consume all 16 tubes on the watch, you would live and thrive to tell the tale, although I'm not sure why you would want to. Improvements for the watch. I struggled severely to find any improvements for the watch, to be honest. The watch is simply just well constructed from the strap to the watch itself. The only nitpick thing that I could find would be to implement drilled lugs, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure if that would even be possible in the carbon composite case. My second opinion would be to have been implementing an automatic version of the watch in its movement, but that's already covered in the 1200 series, so good job, Barry. The strengths, however, are a very long list in which, in my opinion, exceed justification to the $495 cost of the quartz movements, which may raise some eyebrows in a knee-jerk initial reaction, but let's not forget some of the key factors that we're getting with this reliable movement. The tubes are manufactured separately, which has to meet with the watchmakers to implement the technology. That's a cost for ProTek. Each and every watch is pressure tested, both air and water, twice, also a cost. You're getting 5 O-rings to ensure the 300 meters at the crown. That's the first time I've ever heard of that. The bezel is extremely effective in holding its position to the zero back play initiative, and that is impressive and valuable. Sapphire crystal, a deeply engraved embossed logo on the case back, and by deeply engraved, I do mean 3D. High-grade case material being of 30% carbon fiber material. At this level of specification, the watch could have easily been justified even if it was more expensive. A lot of enthusiasts value finishing within their product, and I think that this watch also should be valued for the technology and specifications, making for the perfect tool watch with first-class feel. And just so you guys know, it all started with a watch, and in this case, a tactical watch. No matter where your watch collection journey takes you, no matter how you decide to collect, you guys are all welcome on this channel and will be treated as equals, as you should be. I thank you guys for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.